First up, we'll have Dominika speaking about accessibility, which is a super important topic. So I'll let them roll that. Okay. Hey, Dominika. So it was clear that I didn't know how to say her last name properly, and I didn't want to not do it justice. So go ahead and tell us your full name.
Okay, it's Dominika Zając. I know it may be difficult, but Dominika is also okay.
Awesome. So we're really happy to have you here with us, Dominika. And also the topic that you chose to speak about, which is extremely important. I think that I don't know nearly enough about accessibility on the web, and I don't. And I always like to learn more and how I can do better. So I'm really excited to hear your talk. Stick around because we're going to want to ask you questions after. The community is going to want to ask you questions. So good luck with your talk. Enjoy it, and we'll be back here after.
If you are here, you've probably already seen that page, or at least that Twitter account. But did you know that according to Colorblind Awareness Organization, approximately 1 in 12 men and 1 in 200 women in the world see them differently because of color blindness? For some of them, our well-known pictures may look like this. But it may be more surprising for some of you. Colorblindness does not necessarily mean seeing the world in grayscale. In fact, it's the least common case. Majority of color vision deficiencies will make our pictures look like this or this. Today, I want to show you some tips thanks to which we can make the internet accessible for everyone. Not only for people struggling with color blindness, but also other vision, motion, or cognitive deficiencies. But before we will go there, let me shortly introduce myself. As it was said, I'm Dominika Zając and I am programmer from education, profession, and passion. Currently, I work as a software engineer in Qualtrics in Krakow, Poland, where I'm working mostly with React and Node.js as full stack developer. Apart from my work, I conduct IT-related workshops and lectures, especially for kids and tech newbies. I'm also a huge fan of singing and theater, so if you want to talk about any of the topic, feel free to reach out to me. In the meantime, let's go back to accessibility. What is accessibility, you may ask? Simply speaking, accessibility in IT is building our solutions in a way that will be available for everyone, including people with vision, motion, or cognitive deficiencies. We should remember that some people struggle using internet the same way as the majority of us. They use assistive technologies like screen readers or special navigation keyboard. But it also applies for people who just need bigger fonts on their page or just broke their arm and have to use traditional keyboard and mouse with one hand for some weeks. There are many reasons for taking care of accessibility in your software. The most obvious and the most important is to provide equal access and opportunity for everyone, including people with disabilities. But creating accessible content benefits all users. Clean, well-ordered, and understandable web pages are easier to use for everyone. Also, they position better in search engines, a super important thing for each digital company, and in more and more cases, accessibility may be required by local law. If it's so important, why is accessibility so difficult and unpopular topic among developers? The most frequently repeated answers including lack of knowledge, why it's so important, lack of resources, time and manpower to fix existing solutions, and lack of knowledge on how to quantify and fix the problems connected with accessibility. Today, I will address all of those concerns. Let's start with stepping into our users' shoes. We can talk, read, and discuss a lot, but the experiments are the way we learn the most efficiently. It's why I want to propose to you three simple experiments to better understand problems your users are struggling with every day. First of all, when we come back to traveling, I strongly recommend you visit the Invisible exhibition. For example, in Warsaw, Prague, or Budapest. It's a special place where you can feel like a blind person. You come into total darkness and have to perform normal daily tasks like preparing the meal in the kitchen. But you know what? You may be surprised how difficult daily tasks can be without sight. It was a super eye-opening experience for me, not to mention small panic attack when the lights went out. What's more, the guides are blind or visually impaired people, so you can learn about many aspects from their experiences. Struggling with users' daily problems will certainly make it easier to remember about accessibility in your application. The Invisible exhibition was the most eye-opening experience for me, but I know that visiting the exhibition may be difficult, especially in pandemic times. It's why I want to propose to you also two other experiments, easier to conduct even from your bed. First of them is emulating color vision deficiencies via Chrome DevTools in your browser. Let's see it on the example. First of all, we have to open our web page in Chrome browser. Later on, we have to open developer tools, for example, by clicking three dots and more tools, developer tools. Here, we have to again choose more tools and rendering page and find a section called emulating vision deficiencies. Here, we can choose one of available options in dropdown, like blurred vision or different types of color blindness. What is nice, it works on every page in the internet, so you can check how different web pages will look like with different color vision deficiencies. Is everything readable? Can you read all the text? Or maybe somewhere the contrast color ratio is not enough. Time for the third experiment. Can a discharged mouse have something to do with accessibility? Surprisingly, yes. Many users with motor disabilities or using screen readers have to rely on keyboard navigation. Does your web page fully support that? Where is the focus after dismissing or closing the modal? Can you access all actionable elements on the page? Spoiler alert, keyboard navigation is not as easy as you may think. Okay, we stepped into users' shoes for a while. Let's talk about issues we might notice there. Of course, the list of problems I will present is not exhausting. It's impossible to fit all of them into one presentation. But I chose the most popular mistakes. Hope you'll find them useful. First of all, incorrect Dlm structure. We have so many useful HTML tags, different headings, inputs, checkboxes, buttons, etc. Unfortunately, we, as developers, have also a tendency to create our widgets based only on styled divs. And they are beautiful, but screen readers cannot understand them correctly. Using the correct HTML tag is super important. However, you don't have to give up all your custom elements. Assign them correct roles using a role attribute. Add tab index to interactive elements to ensure they can be focused. Check keyboard navigation in more complicated widgets. In the native HTML elements, you have that for free. So next time, before creating your new super awesome widgets only on divs, think twice. Maybe it can be done easier. The next problem, insufficient contrast color ratio. Fortunately, those issues are quite easy to detect by automated tools. Let's take a look on the example with Chrome DevTools.
Let's take a look on the white button with gray label on it. When we select that element, we can see on the pop-up that we have an orange icon close to contrast label, informing us that something is wrong. When we click on it and go to Styles tab in Chrome DevTools, we may notice that after clicking Color Picker, we have red icon also here. And we have detailed information about required contrast ratio for given specification. What is nice, when we click the button close to that red icons, Chrome DevTools will propose for us the new color with sufficient contrast color ratio and as close to the original one as possible. So we can super easily fix the problem with insufficient contrast color ratio. Nice way to fix that issue, don't you think?
Okay, next one. Sometimes it's hard to understand something without additional information. It's why we have footnotes in books or cards with item descriptions in museums. The same story may occur on your site, especially if we remove the visual part. Remember to add alternative text to your images describing what is visible on them by using an alt tag for images or correct title in SVG elements. If it's only decorative, you can leave them empty or add area hidden through property. Also, read a little about area label and area description properties. Thanks to them, you can add some context for screen reader users. Let's talk about videos, soundtracks, and animations. The modern internet would not exist without them. I can't imagine my life without listening to podcasts or my favorite music or watching movies online. But also here we have to remember about everyone. Probably for the majority of us, English is not a primary language. And subtitles for talks are a really nice feature, don't you think? And now just imagine how important it is when you cannot hear. Of course, when audio is not needed to understand video, you don't need captions. For example, you have only some background music. Subtitles should be synchronized with the audio, but we also have something called transcripts, a text version of the speech and non-speech audio information needed to understand the context. In the more advanced form, the transcript can also include a text description of the visual information needed to understand the content. This is required to provide video content for people who are both deaf and blind. Transcripts and captions, of course, can also be used for audio files. And this is a good example of how the accessibility solution helped us all. Subtitles and transcripts not only help people with disabilities, but also help us when we are maybe distracted, we listen to something in a non-primary language, or we just learn faster when we sing something than we hear. Next important point, animations. Do you remember that old web pages with super expressive colors, music, and a lot of moving elements, sliders, information bars, pop-ups, etc.? Nowadays, we will describe them with one word, crazy. But don't give up animations at all. Subtle and nice animations even today can be a great choice for your website. Just remember about people with cognitive problems. Recommendations here can be summarized in 3 words: pause, stop, hide. Users should have an option to pause, stop, and hide animations, including animated GIFs or infinite loops, for example on sliders. The last problem I want to talk about today is a broken or missing keyboard navigation. It's connected with the experiment with unplugging the mouse. Trust me, it's not as trivial as you may think. What are the problems? When you cannot access some interactive elements, or you are in a trap after, for example, dismissing the button and you have no idea where the focus currently is. The riskiest places are custom components, buttons without support for pressing keys, and modals or places where you remove add something. Also, it's a good practice to add a link at the beginning of your site to skip all navigation items and go directly to the main content. Remember, keyboard navigation is used not only by screen readers, so displaying some visual tips like marking focused areas is also a good option. We were talking about users' problems. Now it's time to think about how to include accessibility in our processes. Because accessibility is not a one-time action. We cannot just add accessibility, mark tasks as done in Jira, and believe we are accessible to the end of our lives or our software life. We have to remember each code change may cause some accessibility problems. It's why including accessibility into the software creating cycle is so important. How to do so? First of all, automatic audits, the fastest and the easiest starting point. We can, for example, open Chrome browser, go to Chrome DevTools. You may notice I'm a huge fan of them, and go to Lighthouse tab. Here, check the accessibility category and click Generate a report. After some seconds, we will receive a full report. At the top, you can see overall score. Score below 50 is bad, 5189 medium, and 9100 is the score we want to achieve. But that is not all. The most important part is the list below, a list of failing elements with tips on how to fix them, and even links to the articles with a broader background. Below the failing elements, there's also a list of past items and things to check manually. Also worth checking, especially when you are just started taking care of accessibility and want to know which areas are important. On the slide, you can see an example with a report for insufficient contrast ratio. Failing elements are linked, so I can click on them and be moved to the Styles tab where you can fix that issue easily, as I showed previously. If you need more advanced report, you can use, for example, Axtool, visible on the screen. The free version without login allows us only to scan all your pages, but it's enough for most of the cases. It can find more problems than Lighthouse and give me more context on them. All findings have links to gather more info, automatically assign impact, and links to failing elements. You can even click the highlight option to check where exactly the failing element on your web page is. Each issue contains also a section informing what needs to be done to fix it. Trust me or not, it's an extremely useful option. Important. Even the best tool cannot find all problems with accessibility. Things like keyboard navigation and elements order can be only partially tested by a computer. Also, each code change may impact accessibility on your site. Remember to perform automatic and manual audits regularly. The next important thing to include in our processes is including accessibility aspects into code review. The second pair of eyes is always useful. If you are using template checklists on GitHub or GitLab, add an entry for accessibility there. But remember, don't waste developer time on things that can be done automatically. On the slide, you can see an example unit test written with JSday. Thanks to that, some violations will be detected faster by machine. And our test suite will fail and inform us when something will be wrong. Those tests are easy to implement, so I strongly recommend them. Another thing we can do is adding plugins like slint plugin visible on the slide. Thanks to them, problematic places will be marked in our editor during programming, like an example visible on the screen, detecting problems even faster than unit tests. We have to remember that even the smartest automation cannot detect all accessibility problems. Remember to perform manual tests regularly. Involve people with different disabilities into them if possible. Remember to test not only the happy path, but also more complicated scenarios. Recall the experiments from the beginning. Could you call your page accessible, having them in mind? In the end, I have a small appeal for you. Be nice. Remember about people who use the computer a little differently than the majority of us. Let's make the internet a place where everyone is welcomed. Thank you very much. If you want to stay in touch with me, feel free to use one of the links visible on the slides. Once again, thank you very much, and I believe it's time for questions, if you have any.
Hey, Dominika. So, what a great talk. What an important talk. I really enjoyed that immensely and learned a lot of things. Yeah, so great job. I particularly like the part about like the developer tools, the Chrome developer tools, where you can actually see it in ways that folks with visual deficiencies can see it. So that's really important. Yeah. So first of all, just the most obvious of questions. Accessibility is never at the forefront of like the developer. and other stuff, for your product and for your users, your larger user base. How do you prioritize accessibility focused features?
Yeah, it's always a good question because we are not learning about accessibility during studies. We are not doing that on our daily basis. But we have to remember that when we start with accessibility, it's not a big cost to add accessibility for new features. And I believe it's the most important when we are starting something new to remember to start your code in proper way so the costs are really low. We have to also remember about people with disabilities. We can also check statistics that even people without disabilities find it more easy to use a web page with well-ordered content and easy to find all elements. And the last point I think it's important is local law, because in more and more countries we can find non-discriminating laws, mostly focusing on government areas, but I believe that in future it will be connected with all web pages in the internet. So having that in mind, I believe we have some arguments to start including accessibility in our software development.
It's true. It's great. That's extremely important. I guess I would want to know for myself, and I guess for others, what would be a good starting point if you want to improve the accessibility on your website, on your web pages? What are the first, quick wins or things that folks can do in order to start improving accessibility?
Yeah, it's connected with that Chrome DevTools because I believe it's the easiest thing you can do. It's enough to open your web page in Chrome, open DevTools, and start that automatic audit. And thanks to that, you have a starting point, you have areas you should focus on, and you have also that score, which is it's a number, so you know if you are improving your web page or not. You have also a lot of tips how to fix it. You have links to articles to learn more. So it's a super easy win. It takes you, 15 seconds to perform the test, and you can easily fix the most important problems on your web page.
Excellent. So I guess my question is, how did you get started in accessibility? Why was this something that was important to you? And why should others care as well?
To be honest, I started thinking about accessibility by accident. I was in Warsaw and I visited that invisible exhibition I will mention in my presentation. And my guide was a guy who is blind, but is also a developer. And I was surprised when he showed me how he's using the internet, and let's say Facebook or other pages were completely different for him than me. And I started learning more about it. And yeah, I strongly recommend that exhibition, because when you cannot see, you understand why it's so important and how differently your web page may look like for people who, for example, are blind.
Yeah, how others experience what you're building, and it's extremely important. I don't see any questions coming in from the crowd. There was a question, but it disappeared somewhere, is the truth. So we lost that. If the person who attended, who posted the Q&A that got lost, you want to post it again? We're still here with Dominika, as we're going to wrap up. Thank you, Dominika, so much for your time and for the efforts you're making in the accessibility world and sharing from your wisdom, because I think this is something that many, many people need to learn and optimize the web for. Thank you. It was wonderful having you here, and I hope you'll join us at the next JSDays as well.
Thank you very much, and see you, hope, in the person.
Yes, me too. I hope so. Thank you.
Bye.